Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Search podcast. I'm Elliott Manning, the managing director of Kayman Recruitment. We are a rep business based out of the UK and US. This is episode 10 now of the Search podcast. I wrapped it up, I guess, just before Christmas. However, I wanted to start the new year off with a podcast episode on the US market, which I would love to go through with you myself. Having seen everything firsthand in the industry, having worked with multiple businesses in the recruitment industry that are not only just over there, that are looking to get over there, that have expanded over there, that are also maybe just US based businesses. I wanted to share my market insights and what I see in the industry kind of going on. So I'm going to share my screen because I'm going to put this episode out as a video as well. So there's a USA market update presentation attached to this, as well as me speaking. So first of all, look, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about salaries and what kind of the market looks like in different states and how you need to kind of, I suppose, package things together, as well as around looking at the OTE commission, moving on to some benefits and incentives and, the markets and what it's like over there and what to focus on. First of all, we'll talk about salaries. Look, the first thing I get asked by businesses that are looking to set themselves up over in the US is, what do I pay someone over there? What do the salaries look like? What does it need to be in principle? So the way I would first look at this is that if you've already worked the US market and you are in, let's say, in tech recruitment, and multiple guests that I've had on the podcast, will have done their research in their markets, etc. Let's just say your average fee here is 15K, right? In the US, your average fee is going to probably be at that point $30,000-$40,000. In the UK, you're looking at paying on average recruiters around, let's just call it £30,000. In the US, you're looking at paying them around £60,000 for the equivalent type of level. The salaries and ultimately the packages are going to look at everything double. That's the only way I would kind of look at, telling them to look at it. New York, for example. New York is an interesting state. It's got high taxes. It's got high cost of living. It's the hustle and bustle, one of the most major cities, if not the major city in the US for business, for people to go and work. It's got that old school kind of vibe to it, which, initially people wanted to be based in New York City. Things have changed slightly since the pandemic, but let's not go into that right now. We'll talk about the fact that there's still a huge recruitment market over there, so much business to be done and lots of opportunity. Salaries in New York that we come across, especially if you're a grad, we got firms that are paying grads, let's just say straight out of college, $60,000 just to be competitive, right? But ultimately, the average you look at is $55,000. With the view for them to progress with a target and, implemented from day one so they can see where they can get to. But, look, I would always say that if you want to try and get one up on the next business, you have to be competitive, which takes you into the recruitment side of, getting experienced recruiters in. The average salary in New York for good recruiters, well, let's just say 1 to 2 years experience, has anything, I suppose, from $60,000 to $70,000 you would see. However, there are businesses out there that might pick up a recruiter that's got loads of potential. They're going to pay them 75, 80K. So there is that flexible aspect to it. But once again, for the sake of spending $5,000 to get a recruiter that's going to come in and generate an additional $50,000 to $100,000 on top of what they can already do, I strongly advise to keep it quite open. But these are guided brackets that we see for senior recruiters, that have been in the game, proven themselves, and don't need to be handheld. Excuse me, you're looking at around $70,000 to $80,000 on salaries, taking you up to $100,000 on team leads, principals that have, proven ability, and managers, anything, the market's up to $120,000, $130,000. And directors, I say circa average around $150,000. But again, you're implementing different schemes in place against, they may have a full healthcare benefits package against that, which is an additional, let's just call it $5,000 a year. If they've got a family, it's going to cost an additional $10,000 a year, so there's a lots of considerations that we can dive into. California is a very similar state on pay, slightly lower, in my opinion, than New York, just because it's a bit of a relaxed vibe over there. It's not necessarily all in office, so there's a lower cost of travel expense, for example. So, I kind of take around maybe 10% on the salaries in LA than I would say so in New York. But again, just different kind of setups in itself. A lot of the clients that we work with and have worked with have got a very hybrid, flexible, chilled model in California and the West Coast, just purely just the way it works over there. Whereas New York, no one wants to be trapped in a, four-wall apartment where they've got no views of a beach and they have to sit there just working by themselves. It's a little bit of a different mindset. So, and do you know what? One client actually said to me recently, they were like, we want people that want to be in office in New York. Why would someone want to move to New York or be in New York and look at four walls every day or look out their window at another apartment building and not have much scenery to keep themselves, I guess, motivated or seeing the daylight in itself? Whereas California, as on the other hand, you're talking about the constant sun, the sea, and I suppose the lifestyle itself being completely different. So yeah, hopefully, I'm sure you can see what I mean by that. So I guess taking from that, if you're going to be in New York, try and get your staff in office. And if they're not looking to be in office and they don't want that kind of vibe in itself, kind of guess, figure out what you want out of your business. And if you want those people working for you, don't get me wrong, they can be remote, but it's it's just completely changed over the years with California and how it operates. Remote working, don't try and I suppose be open-minded on remote working aspect. If you get a good recruiter in the US, give an example. I've got a recruiting client of mine. They've got a New York office, 10 people are in there, but there's a recruiter that's in the next state in Boston, 4-hour train drive journey away, an hour flight, and these guys and girls can bill $500,000 to $1 million. Why would you not hire them? Just because they're not necessarily in office, but they can work remotely and still pay, a visit to New York, for example, every now and again. People are becoming more open-minded to that talent because they're not limiting themselves, to bring good people into the business and I suppose build it up from there. But moving stuff from that, remote working salaries don't change too much either. There may be about $5,000 to $10,000 lower, just again because of that travel expense aspect, but in most cases, what we're seeing are remote workers being paid very much the same as those going into office because they don't see any difference of mindset themselves. So you just kind of have to go with it, and in some cases, just get on with it. Miami, becoming a huge market to be in. Salaries are not too bad over there, but it's expensive to live. I would say Miami is very similar to California on a salary aspect. Austin, Texas is becoming, it was a cheaper place to hire staff in sense of what they were paid. But again, it's changing, it's developing over there. The taxes are developing, the amount of people living there developing, the cost of living is going up. So Austin, Texas is now on par with every other state in terms of, salaries, just purely because of the fact it's just become a lot more of a demanding area to be. Places that are really good to hire staff and to look at from a salary perspective, if you want to keep your costs a bit lower, is places like Atlanta, Georgia, Carolina, North and South. These places are low cost of living, high quality of life. It's incredible there if you want to bring up a family or go somewhere that's, I suppose affordable, but you get more for your money. But salaries over there, where you might pay someone $70,000 in New York, you'll pay them in North Carolina in the region of, I would say, about 50, 60,000, just because it's just, the cost of living there is a hell of a lot different. Talk to you a little bit more about, I would say, let's talk about now the OT and commission. OT and, OT is a big thing for us as recruiters. We're talking to people and saying to them, not what did you make, or, we can't go through that, but we also say to them, what OT are you expecting? So OTE that they're expected from a new firm, they may say, look, as long as I make an OTE of $120,000, that's all I care about. So that allows us to be flexible and playful with the compensation that our clients can offer. So at that point, we may say to them, okay, cool. So would you look at a $70,000 base, the opportunity to earn $50,000 on, commission based on the figures that you've just told me and their commission structure, you can make that happen. So we get to have a little bit of a play with it, be creative with it. And as long as these guys and girls are earning the money OTE that they want to see, i.e. if it's $150,000 a year, you as business owners or managers or whatever it may be can try and get creative to make that happen. And as long as you show them the ability to do that, And as long as you paint the best picture, you don't have to, fill that up with a big base and, then offer so much commission. Just be creative and come up with a plan that works. It's very different to the UK. It doesn't work the same way. So the US is, in my opinion, going down this kind of route to allow us to kind of make that happen for them, which has worked very well over the years that we've been doing it. Commission structure, don't overcomplicate it, in my opinion, from the UK to the US. Try and keep it similar. It doesn't differ that much. Everything's like for like. It's just higher numbers you're speaking. So some businesses have said to me, oh, what commission structure should we use in the US? I've said to them, first thing is, what do you do in the UK? And the fact of the matter is, I should say to them, look, if that's what you're doing in the UK, do the maths in the US. It's all going to work out the same. It mirrors itself, and it keeps things structured in the business that doesn't overcomplicate it. And, I would always just try to keep things, easy. Some firms do try and offer more money in the US from a commission standpoint in the UK, but that is just purely because it's a competitive market. So they may be more generous on what they can provide purely because they know their profit margins are so much more greater. They can afford to give away a lot more money, which, is not a bad way to look at it. Draws. This isn't something we do in the UK that much, if at all. But the US, the old school side of it is to offer a draw. A draw would be a case of saying to someone, look, we're not going to give you $80,000 on the base because that's high. We'll give you $60,000 on the base. We'll give you $20,000 on top of that. But $20,000 has to be paid back to the business over the year from your commission. Once you've paid it back, you can earn the commission you want to earn. So that's one way of helping them get to where they want to be. And it's something that works quite well. You can spread it over a cost, over a payment period. You can do it in multiple different ways, but ultimately they need to pay it back. So it again creates flexibility. Not many recruiters enjoy doing it or want to do it. So, but it just, again, check this out. If you want the presentation, obviously I'm going to send it out to those that ask for it. Let me know, and it will give you a bit more of a definition on how it, operates itself and how it works. Billing. I don't know if you guys have kind of gone through the same mentality as I've been told, since I've run a business, but if you've got 10 recruiters in your business that are doing £100,000, £120,000 a year, you'd be very happy, rather than having one person that bills 250,000 and the others are billing 50. You need, if you've got that level, like a team that are doing that, that's fantastic, because if one goes, you just replace it with another, and it creates a nice balance, so you haven't got so many varied billers in your business. In the US, where you've got a recruiter doing 100 to 120,000 as an average, which is not horrendous in the UK, and kind of a minimum expectation, 10K a month. In the US, again, just double it. $200,000 to $250,000 is, in my opinion, what I've noticed as a good biller in the US, and where you should see the numbers being from someone that, again, is known to the market and what they do and can get on with it. Be mindful of one thing, though. Like, if you speak to a biller, there's multiple $1 million billers in the US. They're not, in my opinion, because once you break down the figures and the facts, they're incorporating splits that's not theirs, that's gone to someone else, splits that's gone to the business accounts that's not theirs because they've only earned 70% of the placement. Or alternatively, if they're a contract recruiter, they've actually done it based on gross profit, i.e. the amount that's invoiced to the client, without breaking down the margin in it, which then takes 1 million to probably 300,000. So, just do your due diligence on the billing in itself, and make sure that you're, working out everything that you need to work out against your costs. Because, again, if your recruiters aren't billing, in my opinion, probably 200,000 once they're up and running, then there's a problem. 150 year one is not horrendous, but 200 is where they want to be minimum. It's a very different market. It's very solution based in the US. It's very relationship driven. It's not hard to pick up jobs. It should be very, very straightforward. But once you pick up the jobs, you've got to suss out whether it's a good job to work on or whether it's a bad job to work on. I mean, obviously in your markets, you'll figure that out. But, if a lot of recruitment companies, and I did this with Ben at Primi Talent, we worked out that, you can pick up jobs in the US, but you picking up jobs that everyone else is picking up. But if you can't win a project and have a solution based kind of relationship with your client where you've got multiple roles because they're only working with you and they love that, and you've got a good relationship, you've got to figure out kind of what you want to achieve out of it. A lot of companies, I mean, I spoke to another business without naming names because it's not fair. They said, oh, we've been over to the US and we had 50 meetings and we picked up 25 jobs and it was fantastic and it was successful and we're going to launch the US. I was like, great. 6 months later, yeah, we haven't filled any of the jobs. It seems like that they were just jobs that anyone could pick up. And the meetings were just because the Americans are so nice that ultimately it didn't really result into anything. And it was a complete waste of time. So, be mindful of that. Don't get too excited too soon. And be picky on the jobs that you work on, just as you would do in the UK. Don't get too carried away just because you picked up a job in the US. It's not difficult. It's a competitive market, which goes into the last bit on this sort of category. Competitive space. Just be aggressive in in terms of what you want to achieve. Everyone's trying to do the same thing as you, so it's all a new area and a new experience. So really own it. Have a good plan in place and pick the right location to where you want to be for the right reasons. Don't just go somewhere just because the weather's nice. Pick it for the right reasons for your industry, your market, your sector, your talent, and put a plan in place around all of that that allows you to progress in your business plans. I've put loads of benefits and incentives. Look, the federal holidays, it's equates a little bit more than the UK. Don't offer the traditional US version of 13 annual leave holiday days. Offer 20 days PTO. Offer sick day pays that are clearly laid out to them. Health benefits, dental, health, vision. Every candidate, sorry, I'm so used to talking to candidates. Every recruiter that you take on, average it out that it's going to cost you around $300 to $400 per month per person that you bring in for healthcare, dental, and vision. The minimum average that you would find is paid and contributed by a business is 75%, and the recruiter will pay 25% out of their own pocket. Some firms are very generous and pay all of it for the sake of another $100 a month. And it's just an attractive incentive. So figure out what you want to do. But when you work with certain payroll companies that do all this, they'll guide you and help you with that. 401k is basically the same as us offering a pension. You don't have to do it. Not a lot of firms do. You can do it over a certain period of time or after a certain period of time, doesn't matter. Things like charity days off of work anywhere in the US for 2 weeks, or they do loads of happy hours if you're in New York. So happy hours is kind of like a known go-to kind of thing, which we do in the UK obviously and anywhere else, but the Americans love it because it's cheap booze and they get to have a lot of fun and they look forward to it. There's other things here like pet care. If they've got dogs and they're in California, it's a lovely little incentive to add to it. It's different. Choose the hours that you work. It's quite cool depending on which state you work in, how you want it set up. Enhanced maternity and paternity isn't actually an offering in the US that is provided. So a lot of businesses choose to do something that they make up themselves, but you can figure that out. And obviously, if you've had someone in the business for a long period of time, throw that into the mix. Markets. Obviously, look, the technology market is huge. Life science, banking. I've put all the list here of I guess the tiers of markets that we see as being top to bottom in the industry over there. But look, there's so many options of what you can work in the US, and there's a huge market for everyone. For those that have listened in and want more information, please let me know. I can go through this with you on a one-on-one basis. I do a lot of consultancy work with a lot of business owners that are looking to expand and set up in the States. From a talent perspective, I'll tell you what you need to do to package it up so that it's competitive in the market and how it should look and could look so that you can attract the right people over there. If you want your number one first person on the ground in the US, it's very difficult, but it's so doable. And, we can help you at Kayman Recruitment do that, which is a rec-to-rec business separate to the search. And lastly, separate to another company of mine, which is iGuide. iGuide I set up a year or so ago. It was to help and is to help businesses that want support with their US expansion. It's a website I've built. It provides all of your contacts that you need from the minute you need to set up an entity, i.e., your technically limited company, but in the US, your entity, which will be, a type of corporation. So I give you all the contacts for that, through to then the accountants, through to the lawyers that can help you with your contracts and terms, through to your payroll companies. I work massively with PGC and only would recommend them if you want to get staff on the ground over there. to office space, telecoms, insurance, all of it. So the iGuide has got everything on there. It's really affordable, but it just allows you and any operations people in your business to just get things done a lot easier and a lot more convenient and a hell of a lot quicker as well. If you've got any questions, please just drop me a note, reach out, connect with me. If you need any support with this, or you would like this presentation sent to you with all this information, let me know and I'll get it sent over to you. More than happy to share what I know and all the information in the market that will benefit you to move your businesses forward. Listen to the podcasts that I've done previously. I've had all different shapes and sizes and, different industries and people in different journeys and different exposure to the States. So there's a lot to learn on there. I've got a lot more podcasts coming up with some really reputable people in the States, people in the UK that have moved over to the States, not just recruiters that have actually taken jobs over there, but people that run businesses that are, not UK centric, but US focused based businesses, just to get their perception on the market. So keep an eye out and watch this space. And thanks very much for listening. Hopefully I'll speak to you soon.